And would you look at that? I'm making a video. Anyway, hello again, YouTube. 'Tis I, the Mirror Ghosty. And, we're just going to continue down the path of archiving old characters and not necessarily redesigning them, but drawing them with the skills I have now, how I was definitely picturing them when I originally was making art for them. So, this video in particular is going to be about the character Holly and Amber, and a little bit into Adeline, which is technically a future fusion between the two, but I can explain a bit more in a minute. But first, I kind of want to get something out of the way. Now, I don't know how often I talk about this, but I feel it's kind of important to always bring it up whenever I'm talking about my old art and old characters and old stories. And that's, please, if you ever feel kind of embarrassed of your old stuff, if you are kind of annoyed of just the backlog you have, don't delete it. Please don't. I promise you, as embarrassing as it might make you feel in the moment when that kind of impulsive thought comes in, you end up regretting it so much later down the line, especially if you are continuing to draw and make stories, because sometimes later down the line in life, you want to look back at how far you've come. You want to look back at all your old characters and your old designs, because it can help you stay inspired. And it really sucks when you have memories of things, but you don't have the evidence or the context behind some of the memories. So don't delete stuff. Please don't. Don't end up like me. I'm quite literally trying to archive as many as my old art and OCs and stories as I possibly can, and I'm doing it mostly from memory. So, I'm gonna be fair, this video is gonna have moments where it just doesn't make sense, and I'll be fair, I'm trying to make sure everything stays relatively cohesive, but I can't promise anything because I don't have all of the stuff necessary to keep context all together in this. So bear with me. So this is technically part 2 of failed self-insert characters that I have made. Now I am posting these out of order, technically speaking, because this is the second attempt at a self-insert that failed. The first attempt was called Laura, and the third attempt, which is going to come sometime later, is a bit more about the character of Adeline and how she evolved into Mira, and it goes a bit more into my own personal identity and my name and whatnot. That's kind of not the point here. The point here is this is kind of going over the history and the story surrounding Holly and Amber. So, Holly, so the first little character in the background in the left, on the left-hand side, she was made in 2011, 2012, pretty sure it was 2012. And I made her to be a little sister to my existing character, Lainey. I have made a video on her. You can watch that if you're interested. Anyway, Lainey was a character I made for a small community that popped up around a webcomic that I enjoyed, and shenanigans, it's not important. Lainey, for me, was a very sadistic, kind of psychotic, happy character. Holly was supposed to be a character that kind of rounded out the edges of Lainey kind of supposed to become a kind of soft spot. At first, her concept on its own was just a plot device, but I ended up putting more effort into giving her characterization, which is I just gave her the characterization of a younger me, of just being kind of naive and innocent and optimistic, and just being all of the good things that Lainey kind of lacked. And that's how she started. And I used her as a kind of plot point of how I wanted to explain away like the death and the erasure of a bunch of old OCs. And then after that, I wanted to actually make Holly into a definitive character. All right. So it's where I was truly putting more effort into her as a separate entity to Lainey. She was still keeping the very wide-eyed, naive, optimistic kind of child who loved her older sister, and Lainey was very protective of her. And at some point, I got into Percy Jackson. Another character was added into the mix. They were all going to school together. And being the sadistic freak I was to myself, I guess actually it'd be more like being the masochist I was, I decided to give trauma to Holly that I had, which is that I had a lot of issues with being alienated by my peers and being bullied. So I gave that to Holly, and she started to become a bit edgier, a bit more sassy, a bit more dynamic outside of being protected by Lainey. And I liked the idea, and then I didn't like the idea. I flip-flopped a lot with it. And then I gave her a split personality called Renee, which was a recycling of an even older character that I had. And that made her also kind of more like Lainey, more stab happy, and it was a split personality. She wasn't like that 100% of the time. But I also kind of started to recognize how that was kind of devaluing the character and relationship dynamic between Holly and Lainey. So I kind of toned back a bit on the Renee characterization and just tried to keep giving Holly more, which is how at some point I made the decision that Lainey and Holly were the daughters of their mother Mandy and a god of death. I think at one point it was just Thanatos, or it was just death. It didn't last forever. And then that they were raised in a sort of limbo / purgatory realm, and that technically, they were like princesses. But Lainey didn't carry the title, and definitely didn't care about the title or even really know about it. But Holly did, and she tended to act more like the princess of the realm and to take more responsibility. And that's where that went for a little while. And then I got really attached to like this demon character design that a bunch of my peers on DeviantArt were doing for the same comic once again. And I got really attached to them. I thought they were really cool. So I made my own character that was like that. That's Amber. And I just kind of was like, oh, I like her design. I'm just going to make her another sister for Holly and Lainey. And all three of them are like 100% related compared to their half-siblings. And then Amber was kind of just there. She was just a kind of stoic, emotionally unavailable, but still very soft for Holly and Lainey. Selectively mute. Not a lot of personality traits, to be fair. And what really happened right a bit later down the line for making Amber and adding her into the dynamic was that I kind of realized, oh, hey, Holly and Amber, if I just squashed the two personalities together, that's just me. That's just my personality. That's like a mesh of all of the things and also my trauma, because I just had to give that to Holly. I don't know why I decided to give that to her, but I did. And it's because they're self-inserts, to be fair. So I came up with a lore reason for Holly and Amber to fuse into one person, and this is really funny. I actually have it written down. Hold on. So when Mandy was pregnant with Lainey, she was actually pregnant with twins, and somehow, either Adeline was just absorbed in the womb before they were born, or technically speaking, her soul was absorbed into Lainey, but she was stillborn, just without a soul, so there's no way to, like, Death God resurrect her. So Mandy went out of her way to, like, try and strip all of the pieces of, Holly's soul from Lainey, put them in a box, and they didn't get all of the pieces. It didn't entirely work, and Lainey, being a child and curious, opened the box before they had finished doing what they were trying to do, and it released Holly and Amber as two completely separate entities, and after a while, and Renee being introduced into Holly, there was enough there for them to fully form into one being, which formed Adeline, which is an anagram for Delaney, by the way, and that is Lainey's actual twin sister. So there is no longer even a slight age gap between the two, they're twins. And that is what happened. That is a piece of the lore I still have written and access to read. I'm not going to read the exact post, because honestly, it is a, 14-year-old me's writing, and it is painful. It is painful. My grammar was crap. But that is what happened. But this isn't the end of them, because Adeline got a bit more mileage and then evolved again, which I'm not going to go into just yet. That's going to be another video later down the line. So that's something to look forward to. And you can enjoy that I drew these pictures. Of course, we have our Holly and Amber, and then we have our Adeline. And hopefully sometime in the future I can make that video. For now, I hope you enjoyed this one.